Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hamster's Hobby Hang. Been a little bit. Think I was off last week. Hello, hello. Notice anything different? Maybe not on screen, but this lamp is blinding me like the sun, which is good. Yeah, let there be light. Exactly. And I'm grateful for you all because I've had it sitting in the box for a week and I didn't set it up until 5 minutes before this started. So it's about time. But it's nice. I One of those cases where the old one I went back to the link that I bought it from. It's out of production. So the model, the dimensions of the bulb, no replacement bulbs. But I had that thing for since 2020. Never had to change a thing about it. So I was like, all right, I'll just get a new one. Can't really see it, but it's sleeker, slimmer up here. So for whatever that's worth. And there's a dimmer. Let's see. So, but for the stream, we'll have a full strength. Hotel internet. Yeah, I hope so too. Where are you staying? Yeah, the amazing house cleaning that occurs before someone comes over, right? I am in the same boat. These are, let's see. These are the three 1490 Doom guys I have left. I've done three just at the studio after hours, and then I've done three on stream here. And I had a crazy idea. What if we could get three of them up to a decent standard within a stream? Might not happen, but we'll see. We're already a little behind, I guess. Not really behind for a stream start, but for a paint start, I guess. So before I forget, I'll put paint on the palette. Sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm ready to start, and then I don't have any paint on the palette. But hey, Caverns Reforged, huh? Thank you all so much for your support. It's a very exciting start. Very cool to see all the new stuff and the different schemes. It's always fun to see the builds because I spent weeks painting all the pieces, but this is kind of in batches at a time on my desk, right? So once you see them built out, it's rewarding. Hello, Gilded. Yes, lurk away. Thank you for being here. London for Comic-Con. That sounds fun. Grassy Banks and Underdoom. That sounds freaking cool. The green, I'm sure, would pop against the Underdoom scheme. One day I'll get my palette cam set up for you. I literally have an extra webcam sitting in the drawer. What I need is another arm, and I'll tell you, this desk is not big. The working space is like 2 feet, maybe 2.5 feet. And I have one, two, three, four arms for mics and cameras and lamps, so I need one more. So I mean, it will work, but I haven't set it up. It will theoretically work. There should be a place for another arm, but yeah, all the green against the kind of purplish be awesome. Also, narratively too, there could be some interesting things, right? Of like it's this weird underplane, but then there's some familiar grass. You know, what's that about? In the campaign I'm playing in right now, I'm playing for like a year. Bunch of cool things introduced, and of course, main sort of conflicts and goals. But we're just now hitting the point where we're starting to see the matrix a little bit, how it's all connected, and you know, mysteries are kind of opening up and we're finding clues and connections, and it's a fun time. Last couple sessions. I gotta get another one of these bottles. Burnt sienna, it's a very nice earth tone, a reddish brown. Useful for a lot of adventurers in the outdoors, leathers and stuff. I've been a fan of the heavy body white because if I'm adding white, it's probably closer to a highlight, and I need it to be opaque when I apply it. I kind of like the heavy stuff, though. For some things, I still like a regular white. I'll put them both out, honestly, for different things where you want like a little transparency. Like for some of the metals, you know, some of the mid-range highlights are actually just the thinner white, but when they dry, they're, you know, closer. Like this range is just kind of the same white, but getting more opaque versus more transparent. Hello, Hippo. Yeah, ooze or moss, both good choices. Oh, did we break 300? It's amazing. I checked it earlier and we were just under. So that's awesome. Okay, so strategy, if we do really want to try to paint all three of these quickly, we got to find what we want to highlight most, to pop, kind of put the most work into. And I think what I really like doing is the metals, especially the kind of greenish metals in this toxic world. And they all have the sort of breathing apparatus, whatever form it takes. So I'll probably start with that, and then there's some things like the undercoat, the atmospheric like underpainting. I've just left it like this handle. It's kind of like who cares, right? Like it looks fine. So what areas can we leave as that? I think black in this case being really kind of grimdark is a good fast way to get some variation, like the boots and the pack here can give us some speed. Just black and a single highlight. The black I have is a little glossy, which gives us a little finish contrast between the model. This gray is nice if we do like a black and gray. I'm trying to think about the neutrals, like all the stuff, air quotes, belts, pouches. How can we do those quickly? If we're spending the most time on metals, I don't think there's any skin left on these, so that would be nice. Because I like to put extra work into that, so that will give us some speed. And as always, you know me, it'll just be weird textury stuff that gives some visual noise so that we can get away with murder a little bit. Doing a fast effect that's kind of distracting so it looks okay. Um and then we can nail the bases as a step just to get it out of the way. Yeah, I think I'll do the metals first. That's gonna take the longest. Let me make sure my natural hairs are nice and pointy and need a little moisture. Every time they've been sitting here for a while, just like hair, right? If they haven't been like moisturized, it's a little frayed out, but they'll get a nice point. This one has been a little stubborn, a couple frayed. Can't really see it, but some extra hairs sort of splaying out. Might be time for a replacement. I probably have an extra, at least similar size at the studio. But for our purposes, it'll be fine. Yeah, that's fine. You just got to give it some love a little bit when it's been sitting. And I always wash it in brush soap. I don't think you necessarily need the artist soap. If you just use like shampoo, you could literally use shampoo and conditioner on these because it's hair. I guess I haven't tried conditioner, so depending on the additives, they add fragrance and stuff, so there might be some weirdness that happens now that I say it out loud, but yeah. But I mean, especially for our tiny brushes, like this thing lasts forever, right? Yeah, frizzy weather, exactly. Okay. So I kind of haven't having done these, I kind of have an idea how I like to mix up the metals, so I don't know, I thought it'd be a fun challenge to maybe get a few of these done. So we'll just do our best and see how it goes. mixture I got isn't quite the same, but I like that, and it will work. So let's give it a shot. And the trick I gotta make sure to do for some of this, I do all this atmospheric, what I see as atmospheric kind of underpainting so that we can leave it behind. So just make sure we're leveraging that. Will give us some speed. Yeah, this ended up a little bluer, but that's okay. We can always like add in the greenishness. Especially these are the first sort of middle to dark values. So we can always add as, you know, a color influence as we sort of highlight. And it will be stylized, which I kind of like with these guys. If it sort of color transitions in a weird way, we'll see how it turns out, but I'm just kind of going with the flow here. It's the fun thing about like neutrals, like a metal or even like a leather or any gray. It's like it can almost be any color as long as you get, you know, if it's desaturated. Like this is actually pretty saturated, but I think that's fun for metals. But I really like working like, you know, this is pretty colorful, but it's fairly desaturated. So we basically have a bunch of grays. And you can go further with this where it's even more grayish. But like we can get away with like adding a bunch of color between like the top, bottom, and the hands because it's almost like a blue, green, a yellowish gray. That's an extreme example because these are truly those hues. But once you get into gray, you can get pretty creative with how far you're stretching the color of the gray as long as it remains gray. And once again, too, from this spot in our layering, we can desaturate it with layering too. So it's okay that here in the mid values we'll have a little saturation. We'll just cover it up. So then we can leverage that too. Just making sure I don't miss. What is this thing? Is this like a random armor plate? It's like my back's a little defenseless. Sure, we'll do it that way. Yeah, exactly. Once it's neutralized, kind of has a worn, battle worn effect. Yeah, some kind of rando thing. It's kind of fun. Do want to go a little more in the green territory. I think this will end up a little more colorful than the previous ones, maybe. But, I mean, once we start adding white to highlight, it will go away. I think this is the realm of values. I mean, like these middle ones where we can get away with adding more color. So we'll cover it up with whitish highlights and it will desaturate. And if it doesn't completely, I think that will look cool anyway. Rule of cool, right? I really love this sword. For a print, it's kind of thin, but it has stayed fairly durable. And so the fact that we can get her like a really thin, sharp sword like that, I think looks really sweet. We'll add some metal to this thing. Yeah, these sculpts are awesome. I'm really impressed. And this is the kind of one of the first times I've been turned around on 3D prints a little bit. A lot of times I just found the quality a little lacking, not of the sculpt, but just like the limitations of 3D printing, you know, like I'm used to the plastic and the sharp detail. It really makes a difference painting it when it's sharp. But these really came out nice, and we didn't print them. They were, you know, packaged, printed already. But like the sword in particular that I mentioned, it's like, okay, well, sure, you have it as a weapon option, but is it gonna snap as soon as I assembled the darn thing? But it's been surprisingly durable. All right, after this, I gotta stop screwing around. We're going for speed and just start getting to some white. Can always glaze it back or sketch it back, but I want to get the values going for the metal. It's always kind of funny to me because I have added a bunch of white into this, but it's like, yeah, you're almost 50% there for the value. It's always kind of surprising. And we'll have to adjust as we paint the rest of the model too, because the rest of the model being fairly dark will affect how this stuff looks. So, but it's kind of a shortcut to me. It's like the main thing that makes stuff look reflective is the white reflections. So start mapping those out, and you can always push and pull, but gotta get those down as quick as possible. Kind of drawing a map for myself. Sometimes little accidents happen, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'll put a highlight there. If I see a random streak, I'll be like, yeah, that's a highlight spot now. We'll continue to highlight it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, these prints are good. I'm sure they must have good, you know, quality assurance where they're looking at the batches afterward and stuff. See, look at this. Look at like the two edges and what's it called? Like the groove of the blade, like this edge that's on the inside of the blade but the outside of the groove. Like, man, that's a good print. It makes it easier for me because sometimes if I really want an effect like that, like a blade groove, um, I'll have to almost draw it on the mini, which is can be fun, but it's always nice when I'm just sort of following the map that's already laid out in the sculpt. And this had weapon options too, so that's one of the reasons I saw that sword. I was like, all right, I gotta have that. All right, this is getting a little crazy in the middle here. I'll have to play with that, but it's all right. Middle of this pack. This helmet's very cool. I want to make sure I do it justice. See its shape really well. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what, too? We'll even add some tunes. All right, so from here, like you can see, I've added so much white. but once it dries and the transparency is still pretty mid-range. So usually as a shortcut from here for our gaming tabletop standard, I'm just going to start going straight to white because it's going to do the same thing where you're doing directly white paint, but it's going to dry fairly transparent. So we'll do the two whites. One is thinner, one is the heavy body. We'll go between them. Do the WizKids ones have letters on the bases? Like they're named? I don't know any WizKids ones. And this shortcut too is also why, even though, I've done the skeletons and stuff, they'll end up with really reflective armor, even though it should be kind of old. It's mostly because I think it's cool. And it's fun to paint, so. And it's a little faster if I can exaggerate somewhat. Getting there as far as reflectivity, it's not very clean, but we'll have to go back and forth. Oh, it's on the mold. Okay. Yeah, it's already getting there. Looks reflective. The rounder shapes are a little harder. This has a lot of like edges and grooves to distract. So this one, I'm not quite happy with the map, but we'll just keep on going. So one of my philosophies when I'm trying to have some speed is don't fix as you go, fix in future steps. Just wait and be like, all right, what's the next step I want to do? Try to fix it there, because usually you can, instead of stopping and going back. Yeah, I'm getting a little wacky on some of this, so it's a tough shape kind of, but we might need to go back at the end and glaze it out. Alright, now I'm gonna try some selective heavy whites. Kind of the lens flare effect. Small area in the map that I drew out. I'm also sticking so far to my larger brush. It's like a size 2. We're going for speed. Hopefully that helps. Really want to make sure you can see that nice sculpt in the groove of the sword. I love that. The thing about, especially when I'm going for tabletop speed, a lot of tutorials and stuff for especially non-metallics and stuff, but a lot of glazing, a lot of really slow layers. What you gotta remember is your eyes can mix the layers for you. Like when you're seeing a small thing, even up close, when you're seeing a small thing on the table, like you can have chunky layers and your eyes will optically mix them together to a certain extent that you can leverage. Like obviously if it's really really out there, maybe not as much, but you can get away with a certain chunkiness and just let the human eye do the mixing and the smoothing out for you. Thank you. Yeah, I like that. We still want to be fairly conservative with, even if I want to smooth that out, I still want it to be fast. So if anything, we'll do one. I'm telling myself this in advance so I don't overwork it or we'll run out of time. But one glaze to get a little more smooth, and then basically redo this white highlight. Hopefully we'll get some of that fuzzy sort of lens flare action. I think the problem with this helmet is so far is just like the map of highlight I've laid out to really make the shapes clear. It's a little off to me maybe. But when we glaze it down, we can maybe adjust the position of the specular highlights and stuff. And add in, I think it's a little over highlighted. We can maybe add some shadows because the thing about it making it look reflective too, it's the highlights, but the highlights have to be next to shadows to make them look brighter. And with metals specifically, the highlight being very very close to a shadow is one of the things that sells it, because the way the light bounces around doesn't really happen on other materials that way, where it's you could have a highlight and a deep shadow right next to each other. So that's one of the illusion tricks. See, I like little accents like that. There's kind of like this weird circle lens flare shape that I got just from pushing the brush around on accident, but I like that. So it's not just like two lines. I mean, it's not realistic that the light would necessarily be diagonal like that anyway, but it adds the fact that there's a shift in the effect. I don't know. I like that. Makes it maybe read more realistic in the sense that it's so varied when light bounces around on metal. So yeah, this guy's a little rough. This helmet. And it's annoying me. So when I really get sort of frustrated is when by my own painting is when I will just have to go back and break my rule. I don't mind the placement of some of it. I think I just need it to be a little softer, I guess. Even for me, it's a little stark. Maybe get a little more darkness into some shadows. And then this is an opportunity too to add a little weathering. I added some of that red brown. If we're placing in shadows, we can add weathering. So this is why it's fun to like don't stop and go back. Just kind of move along, and then it's like, well, I can leverage this new step that I'm fixing stuff at to add some sort of rusty colors. Yeah, instead of the full front of the thing, it just sort of gradually fades up to a highlight. That I like that a little better. Let this flare a little bit. It's not great, but I love the shape of the helmet. I'm just having a hard time with mapping out highlights on it, so it's kind of an odd shape. So I think for now we'll just have to call it good and move on to the rest of the models. So where are we at? 706. Yeah, it's like if you're gonna go back and like, okay, I'm gonna put in shadow, it's like, can I combine steps? Like this is part of the gig at Dwarven Forge, right? Like you only have so many steps to make it factory efficient. So can you do multiple things with one step? So it's like, okay, we're gonna go darker to add shadow. Is that an opportunity to add a different effect as well, like a rust? You uncovered a secret stockpile of Dwarven Forge? Yeah, see, I mean, this is okay. I think it'll look cool on the table, but this is a good example of like I super over highlighted it, and so you need the heavy highlights for it to look reflective, but you also need the dark parts to make the high parts look reflective. So that's kind of cool. Little flare on the eyelid slot. All right, I think I have to not touch the metal anymore, and we gotta do the rest of these. I think I'll do all the stuff I sort of don't want to think very much about, like boots and stuff. So let's do some black. Maybe all these pouches can be black. I like the sort of red brown pouches I've done on some of these, but I kind of wanted to add red to some of these models' clothing. So I don't want it to be too punchy though, because it's a dirty wasteland type world. So we'll add some of these dark elements. Heck, maybe even the gloves. Sort of missed a weird plate thing here, so we'll just do a quick little job. There, we can see it. We're going to leave it. If it's clear, then we're good. Ooh, Lego Minas Tirith. That'll be awesome. do these straps too. We don't just they're under the arms, you know, like they're not super visible. So we'll just make them black. Still make sure we'll highlight them like with a single highlight, make sure they are somewhat readable, but they're not like a super big part of the visual impact. So let's do them quick. And if they lead to these metallic parts, that will help them pop a little brighter. Okay, there are some elements I want to be a little like leathery brown, red brown. Not as much on this guy, so I think. So I think I'm gonna block in where I want it to be red red. Maybe there's a place we can put brown, but it's the brown that I'm using is fairly close to red, so I don't want a bunch of red on here. Like on the clothing, so I'll just block this in. And to keep moving while we're at it, I'll do the same on all of them, I suppose. This is kind of cool. The tube goes from the tank under this little cowl to the head. Hey, Commerce. This is a 1490 Doom skirmish game that Chris and I found at Adepticon. Just kind of mixing up a neutral from what I already had on the palette for these pants. Like I said, I really love the detail on them, but all the creases and stuff, but they're not the most important part of the model to me. So if I can get away with basically just doing this coat, I'll be happy. So we can move on. Do it on this thing too. I can leave that shadow area deep under here, so that was a quick little pass. That's nice. Just need to do it where the light's hitting. There's one more sort of neutral thing that I can do without a lot of brain power. So there's like some wraps that I'll just sort of do in a whitish ivory, you know, bandage type color. And we can get the variance through just a couple different layers of opacity. We'll sort of dry in different opacities, so will give us a little speed. Going back to that pants color I had from before. kind of grabbing stuff that's on the palette already. It's another reason why I like mixing my colors. Doesn't really have any of that bandagey material, so we'll add some lightness here, I guess. Hello, Amy. Just pulling this from some of the mixes we did on the metal, but we'll leave them less, desaturated. Not much left to do that on here, but this, sure. Thank you. Yeah, these are fun. They're 1490 Doom. This is getting a little close to the metal, so I'm gonna add more of this sort of weathered color. Sorry, I'll even paint on screen for you. Arch villains, what's that? And definitely chat some paint when they come in. This is a pretty large area of this weird color, so I'll give it an extra highlight. 37, 737. Hey, Monument, thanks so much for the raid. Welcome all. We're painting some 1490 Doom. We're trying to do 3 models in a batch over like a 2 hour stream. We're getting there. I don't know if we're gonna hit it, but we'll try. Yeah, I have a few at the Dwarven Forge studio, but over the past Hobby Hang streams, I've done these for Doom and this one here. So I'm just trying to kind of finish them out because I want to play. Yeah, they kind of have these toxic bases. The game is kind of like a medieval wasteland with like King of the Hill mechanics, where it's a 2 foot round board, and there's like a miasma that's like toxic, and they all have sort of breathing apparatuses, and you're trying to get the high ground. Thank you. Yeah, the Brute's one of my favorites. But if you're not familiar, this page is for Dwarven Forge Terrain Company, and we just launched Caverns Reforged, where we're putting Caverns terrain into new paint schemes. A lot of the older Caverns pieces are getting put into Ice Caverns and Underdoom paint. It's kind of like our version of the Underdark. So that's live right now. Just went live this week. So if you're interested in building some caverns for your RPGs, we got a bunch of stuff for you. Yeah, there could be a cool Doom board that has some cavern stuff. Like if you're going from the underground to like just above the earth. But yeah, on Thursdays here, since 2020 COVID lockdown, I've just done a hobby stream where we hang out and paint whatever the heck is on my desk. And on Wednesdays at 6 Eastern, there's sort of a Dwarven Forge studio update called On the Anvil, where you get to hear about new stuff and what's going on. So definitely follow for that if you're interested. I'm so close with these that if we go a little bit over, that's okay, because I kind of want to see them all finished up. I can always go back and touch them up, but for, a small game that I just want to try, probably with Chris at the studio, just kind of want to get them finished and ready to go. All right, Amy, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you later. I missed whatever the heck this is. Just do something like that, I guess. All right, I think these are for the most part done. Oh, I have to do this big ol' thing back here. For those of you from Monument Streams, have you tried these one-step paints? I have not tried them yet. But I've heard good things. My paint's getting a little too wet on the palette here. Let's see. At least that one was. Alright, the last thing I want to do before the base is, I guess, is just make sure the black parts that we did quickly have some little interesting visual highlight so they can be seen. Some of them might go gray, that's okay. Just trying to add variance quickly. All right. Gotta make sure we can see these cool little pouches. All right. Now that I'm looking at it, I think we can afford to do one more texture pass on this. There we go, add a little interest quickly. All right, let's do these bases and get out of here. Oh yeah, I can't look through my stuff. I'm just like, I don't even remember getting this. Always kind of like to do a little spotlight effect, sort of brightest in the front view. I think it adds a little drama, kind of. These bricks need something, I guess. A little gray. All right. Now just the base effect thing, which might take a little patience because I need it to dry before the inks and stuff. And I know I will get impatient if I'm not careful, so I might take a little bathroom break after this. All right. Let me put some cool stuff here. And I will be right back. We're in the home stretch. I think we're going to do it. Alright. I think I'm gonna do these a little differently this time and start the dark color. Because I ended up kind of pulling off the white, it's kind of fragile. And the yellow ink. We'll start with this. Pull some of it off. Might go on a little easier for me, at least as far as the durability as we're painting. Some of this guy. Yep, it's being stubborn on me a little bit, but that's okay. I think we will have to go back and forth a bit. Wish I had a hair dryer set up here, but just have to be patient instead. By that I mean blow on it aggressively. I'm gonna get some of this thicker white. Just gunk it up, you know. Because it will dry a little faster that way. And I needed a little more brightness anyway. And opacity. I got a lot of cleaning to do in this place, but you know what? It's off camera. So maybe screw it. Oh yeah, the tea mug next to the paint water. Hey, I've been there. That's treacherous territory. Forgot about this little tree I put on here. Little fallen tree. Just add a little something. Yeah. Yeah, they're doing well. They're sitting in muck. We set a goal to do 3 minis in one stream, which is unheard of here for Hobby Hang. Normally, I won't shut up. But we're doing pretty good. Alright. Those bases have to dry, but I think it's about time for the victory laps around the base. Yeah, there's some cool sludge. I'm gonna need to wait for some of that to dry. I kind of want to get more of this golden. This one's kind of there. But I'm starting to pull up paint. Getting impatient, pulling up those thin layers when we're using the transparent colors. But this is pretty cool. And it's cool if they have variants too, you know? I don't mind that. Yeah, more sludgy. I want to differentiate this tree a little bit. Alright. We did it. 3 models, 1 stream. Ready to play. Not too shabby. And a warband is 3. That's why I got this many. There's 3 here. There's these 3. And then there's 3 more at the studio. And then Chris also has 3 more. So we got a bunch of options now to try this game. It'll be fun. So, I imagine with Caverns Reforge up and running, there'll be some awesome stuff next Wednesday on the Anvil. Let's take a look at Thursday. It looks like I got nothing, so I should be here painting models. I have a bunch of some kind of Western models we could do. Got, what do we have? 7 of them. I have some Bushido here. There's some painted ones. I got a few of those on the desk. So yeah, we've had a number of weeks of this sort of medieval wasteland. I think we'll move on from that and do something different. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank goodness for this new lamp so you can actually see what I'm doing. And we shall see you next time. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.